It's the 4th annual Fannie Awards. Now, please welcome your host, Andrew Fantasia. Hey, everybody. Welcome one and all. Thank you very much for coming to the 2018 Fannie Awards. This is spectacular. I'm so glad you're all here. As I mentioned yesterday in my intro, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences was actually very upset, and they said some rude things, and they said, you know, the Fannies is not as good as the Oscars. The Oscars is always going to be better. To which all I can say is, at least the Fannie Awards has a host this year. Hey-o! So let's not beat around the bushes the first day. These are quick little awards. Let's get our first day out of the way. Today, we're not giving out any special awards. We're just going to be talking about my number 10. That's right, my 10th favorite movie of 2018. That is one of the hardest parts of this list to make. If you've ever made a top 10 list of anything before, you know that number 1 is always the easiest. Number 1 is always the easiest. 2 and 3 tend to flip-flop a little bit, but you pretty much have a good idea of what they are. 10 though, number 10 is brutal because there are so many things vying for that number 10 spot. There were about 6 movies that I was constantly fighting and struggling with to fill this position. And you know, something has to be number 10. Everything else has to be honorable mention, but what? What ends up taking the number 10 spot? And I think after a whole lot of fussing and a fighting and a feuding with myself, I finally came to some kind of decision. Now remember, these top 10 lists are static. That's how it works, my friends. You know, you might love a movie today, 2 years from now, you might look back and say, yeah, I can't believe I loved that. I'm still a little bit upset at myself from last year's Fannies because I put the movie Get Out somewhere around like number 7. Get Out should have been much higher than number 7. And if I was to go back and readjust that list, it definitely would be much higher than number 7. But that's just the way the lists are. It's how I feel in the moment. I spent the month of January reflecting on the films I saw in the past year, and this list is the best I could do of putting them in some kind of order. So without further ado, what is my number 10 film of 2018? And my number 10 film is Mortal Engines. The world is full of epic sci-fi and fantasy stories, and we tend to forget that some of those stories don't necessarily involve lightsabers or magic rings or preteen wizards at boarding school. There are plenty of others, and they're packed to the brim with juicy, creative goodness, and Mortal Engines is just one of them, baby. It really is. You take the basic concept of a post-apocalyptic Earth, thousands of years in the future, where instead of remaining stationary, many villages, towns, and cities now exist as enormous vehicles that chug their way across the barren landscape, waging war with other cities for resources. Add in dashes of conspiracy, political intrigue, steampunk action, and even, perhaps, a little bit of magic, and you've got Mortal Engines. And after hearing that description, what's not to like? We've seen plenty of literary fantasies adapted into train wreck movies with very little to offer. Narnia, Aragon, Inkheart, Golden Compass, I'm looking in your direction. It would have been so easy for Mortal Engines to be one of those movies. But it wasn't. This is a film with a lot of thought, care, and love put into it. And it shows, honey. If you haven't seen Mortal Engines yet, you're missing out on one of the coolest genre films in recent memory. Congrats, Mortal Engines, on being my number 10 film of the year, and congrats all of you for watching day 1 of the Fannie Awards. I know it was probably tough to get through. My voice can be a little shrill sometimes, but thank you all for sticking it out. We've got 9 more days of this ahead of us to look forward to. So stay tuned. I will see you here tomorrow for film number 9, and we'll also be giving out the award for Best Movie Trailer. That'll happen tomorrow. I'll see you then. The 2018 Fannie Awards will continue.